In fact, the earliest beliefs did not begin with the concept of a god or a law. People couldn't control nature, but some events kept repeating themselves. The movement of the moon, the movement of the sun, the seasons, they started attributing meaning to things they couldn't constantly explain. There is an invisible force, something that has an effect on things. We don't call the first belief a religion, but a belief called animism. They believed that everything had a spirit, the stone, the river, the air, the animals, the will and spirit of the wind. If a hunt was unsuccessful, it meant they had angered or upset something. If illnesses occurred, it meant they had offended or alienated a god or a power. They attributed meaning to everything in nature's reactions, to the tides, to everything. After the Neanderthals, the dead began to be buried. In fact, belongings were even left beside them, because they believed that death was not the end, that the soul continued on and went to another world. Later on, it was accepted that their ancestors were protective spirits. It was after this point that totems and such began to emerge. Those first totems they worshipped, or the things they danced around, were their ancestors. Then these ancestors transformed into eagles, wolves that became tribal symbols, and birds. Dancing before a hunt, throwing something into the fire, or making a sacrifice, repeating the same words. These were rituals, a kind of prayer. Remember this, the origin of rituals is rooted in beliefs. Later, tribes emerged and chose those totems for themselves. An eagle, a bear. They said, we are descendants of wolves, descendants of eagles, eagles protect us, and accepted this as their identity. And so, groups like the Eagle Clan and the Wolf Clan began to form, and they started to split into subsects, much like today's Christianity and Islam. Agriculture changed everything. The land became sacred and fertility became important. In fact, the cycles of the seasons and dates would later come to coincide with dates like the birth of Jesus Christ, and at this point, things like the rain god, Mother Earth, and sun cults emerged, and finally, mythology was born. People were creating an ancient history. The gods now fought like humans, became jealous, and fell in love. Storytelling transferred the mythological universe to the gods, and eventually the religions of today began. How did it start? Priestly classes emerged. Religion and belief were used over people for fear or interest. Temples were built, prohibitions and sins appeared, and eventually today's belief systems emerged.